Shifting to our fireside chat, Turkey is an increasingly important transit hub for oil and gas supplies as they move from Central Asia and the Middle East into European markets. Additionally, renewables, especially wind energy, have been on the rise in Turkey. And American companies are playing a big role in both of the areas. One of the most frequently referenced opportunities in this year's conference is the US-Turkey energy trade, especially when it comes to LNG, which has increased by 360% over just 1 year and is playing an increasing role in the bilateral 100 billion trade goal. Our two governments will host a US-Turkey LNG virtual forum in late October, which the US Chamber's US-Turkey Business Council is happy to very actively support. The US LNG export to leave Sabine Pass, Louisiana for Turkey occurred in 2016 and has been on an upward trajectory ever since. It has been said that the US-Turkey energy relations are experiencing a renaissance. Turkey is now the second largest US LNG importer in Europe, Spain being the largest. We will learn more about these prospects today from our distinguished two guests. Turkey's Deputy Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, Alparslan Bayraktar, and the US Assistant Secretary of Energy, Steve Winberg. We look forward to hearing their insights and reflections on this and the opportunities and areas for growth. But before I turn to them, I would like a quick thanks to our corporate sponsors. Our diamond sponsor, Dow AXA, our platinum sponsors, Borsan, Charlik, Kalyan, Khush, Sabancı Chimsa, Kiba, and Turkish Aerospace Industries. Our gold sponsor, P&G, and our energy and sustainability session sponsors, Cheniere, GE, and PepsiCo. So with that, welcome both Your Excellencies. And let me kick off with the first question to both. What is the role of energy, LNG in particular, in fulfilling the ambitious 100 billion trade target between the two countries set forth by the two presidents? And Deputy Minister, if you would like to lead off, and then we'll turn to Assistant Secretary. Go ahead.
Khush, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this introduction and brief summary about the bilateral trade relationship between Turkey and US. Before jumping to your question related to the role of LNG between trade volume in two countries, I would like to just give you a brief information about the importance of gas in Turkish energy market and in general Turkish economy. Gas is quite crucial for Turkey for a couple of reasons, because we consume gas in industry. Turkey is an industrial country. We have a very competent, and some of them you already mentioned during the sponsor's announcement, very competent, very capable manufacturers in Turkey. They deliver goods and services global markets. So for industry, we need continuous base supply of gas, of course, competitive, affordable manner. And secondly, gas is quite crucial for Turkish power market. In years, electricity was around 45%, and in some years is 48%. So this is very significant. And thirdly, for household, for 83 million people who lives in Turkey, because also Justice and Development Party, the governments of AK Party has a very ambitious gas access program to all households in Turkey. And now we brought gas to 81 cities, and the penetration of gas for the consumption is increasing every single day. So these three areas are important and touching each and every person living in this country. So that's why gas is quite important. And when it comes to market conditions, unfortunately, we are a little bit behind the market liberalization that we planned in the past, like 15, 18 years ago. Although we had successfully implemented many market reforms in power market, our power market is very well advanced in the sense of marketness. But unfortunately, the gas side was a little bit behind the expected realizations. But we took a very important step 4 years ago when we announced, at that time, former energy minister, Minister Albayrak, announced our new national energy and mining policy. We said in our energy policy, we are going to address three areas. Security of supply, localization of energy industry, utilization of our local resources, and will provide predictability to the market, to the investors, to provide them sound, level playing field for investment. And then we identified some areas, especially in the field of gas, that we will invest heavily on gas infrastructure. In three different areas. One is related to underground storage facility. So we would like to increase capacity in Turkey, both for security of supply reason, but also to somehow provide predictable, foreseeable prices and try to minimize the volatility of gas prices to the industry, to the household, and other consumers. And another area is LNG. We said 4 years ago, we need to increase the capacity of our regasification facilities. And then in a very short period of time, we added 2 FSRU terminals, floating storage and regasification terminals. And in a very short period of time, we quadrupled our regasification capacity. And the third FSRU terminals is under construction. Total, we are going to have 5 regasification terminals in Turkey, floating and 2 onshore. And with that, Turkey, as of today, technically can receive 50% of its LNG, its gas consumption by LNG, through LNG. This is a very significant number. And in a very short period of time, we were able to make this happen because we saw that there's an upcoming tendency and trend in global gas trade, and the shale revolution in the States made it really possible that abundant gas will be available over the next few years and decades to come. And we invested a lot on our regasification capacity, and we started to see the results right after this investment. We saw that in 2018, 22%, 23% gas supply was coming through LNG, was percent, and really fascinating. But most likely at the end of this year, we are going to see 1/3 of gas supply will come from LNG. And there's a tendency that it's going up. So that's why the gas is crucial for Turkish economy. LNG is becoming more and more important in this picture. And of course, when it comes to supply picture, we started to see US LNG gaining. You share the numbers, more than 300% increase. This is a very significant, and with that, US became, in the first 6 months of 2020 this year, the largest supplier to Turkish gas market. So which means, look, Turkey I need to stop. I know it took so long, but I have so many things to say. Yeah, just one last point that I will make here, and I'm going to stop. Turkey is the fourth largest gas market in Europe. Great potential that the market can, in case if we provide reliable, competitive, and of course flexible gas to the market. So within this framework, I think the target that's set by President Erdogan and President Trump about reaching $100 billion trade volume, LNG will play a very significant role in this picture.
Thank you, and thank you. That provides a very good lay of the land from the Turkish side. So with that, Secretary Winberg, how do you see Turkey's role as an importer of US LNG, and your thoughts on its overall role in the economic relationship?
Sure.
Secretary Winberg?
Khush. And, yes, can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you. Absolutely. We can hear you.
Okay,
we can
great.
hear you.
Thank you. Wonderful. So, Minister Bayraktar, it's good to see you. We spoke a few weeks ago, and we've been speaking on a fairly regular basis about what's happening in Turkey. So we first, let me applaud Turkey's successful ongoing energy diversification efforts and the very real progress that you're making in bringing LNG into Turkey. I was listening carefully to what you said, and it strikes me that there's a lot of similarities between the United States and Turkey. You talked about the industrial sector and Turkey being an industrial country. And the same holds true in various parts of the United States. We're seeing an industrial renaissance, if you will, and in particular in the petrochemical industry because of this low-priced natural gas, and that some of the reserves that we have in the United States have wet natural gas, meaning it has ethane and propane and pentane. And so there's a similarity there between Turkey and the United States. You also talked about natural gas for power generation. The same holds true in the United States. Natural gas is now a greater source of power than coal. And just a decade ago, 50% of the power generation in the United States was coal-fired. And that's not the case anymore. Natural gas now has the predominant share. You also talked about households, and the same holds true in the United States. There are many, many homes throughout the United States that are heated with natural gas. They use natural gas for hot water and, of course, for cooking. And while we have a robust infrastructure, pipeline infrastructure in the United States, there are certain areas of the country where we do not, and the New England area is one of those. So there are opportunities to move more natural gas up into that part of the country. But Khush, with respect to your question on how Turkey and the United States can work together to meet our two presidents' trade target of 100 billion. I think it's pretty clear that U.S. LNG prices are competitive with natural gas that Turkey currently purchases both by pipeline and as LNG from other suppliers. And we believe that increasing imports of LNG from the United States creates a diversification that will ultimately be good for both countries and will help us meet that $100 billion goal. I think one other thought I have is that contracting mechanisms for U.S. LNG are quite broad. You can go anywhere from spot price or spot purchases of LNG all the way through long-term contracts and even equity positions, taking an equity stake in a production field, taking an equity stake in the export terminal. And our LNG suppliers can do anything from simply liquefying the natural gas to what I would describe as a turnkey service, delivering the gas by LNG tanker to the ports in Turkey. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to collaborate, not only in terms of LNG, U.S. LNG exports to Turkey, but also working with Turkey to develop the infrastructure that's needed and to assist Turkey in their opportunities for moving LNG into the region beyond Turkey's borders. So let me stop there and see if there are other questions that I can answer.
Sure. If I may stay with you, Assistant Secretary Winberg, for a minute, could you elaborate, given what the context of what you just provided, on the current situation in the global natural gas sector and the potential in LNG markets, particularly post-COVID, from a U.S. perspective? I believe both the Deputy Minister and you have alluded to the fact that you see LNG playing an increasingly more important role in the energy mix, so to speak. But could you elaborate on the current situation a little bit and where you see it, particularly post-COVID?
Sure, I'd be happy.
Secretary Winberg?
Yes?
Go ahead.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. Well, let me just step back for a second to describe the energy picture, more particularly the LNG picture in the United States. In 2011, the United States surpassed Russia to become the world's largest natural gas producer. How did that happen? It happened through what we often term or call the shale revolution. And that allowed us to move forward very quickly. It all started in about 2008. So within the last 12 years or so, the growth of U.S. natural gas production and our ability to export to other countries has been phenomenal. Our U.S. Energy Information Administration, often referred to as the EIA, show that the U.S. will remain the world's largest natural gas producer through 2050. And right now, our dry gas production in 2019 was 942 BCMA, and that's a 10% increase over 2018. And by the way, our 2019 gas production is the highest volume on record. And in fact, I mentioned the shale gas revolution. Sometimes that's referred to as tight gas. It will make up about 91% of dry gas production in 2050. And the forecast is that in 2050, we will have about 1,260 BCMA. So phenomenal growth in the gas production in the United States. So let me talk about LNG. Right now we can export, we have the capacity to export 103 BCMA. By 2025, that will grow to 158 BCMA, so roughly a 50% increase in the next 5 years. And then if you look at every LNG export terminal that has been authorized by the Department of Energy, that's almost 500 BCMA. Now, not sure if all of that will get built, but it certainly points out the amount of capability that we have to serve the growing LNG market, not only in Turkey, but around the world for that matter. Now, let me just answer your question on COVID. Because of the COVID, we've had a fairly significant decrease in natural gas or in LNG exports, but that has turned the corner now. And by the end of this calendar year, we project that the LNG exports will be back to the level they were pre-COVID. So we're very optimistic, and beyond this calendar year into next year, we see them growing even more based on the information that we get from the U.S. LNG exporters.
Well, thank you. So, Deputy Minister Bayraktar, we just heard Secretary Winberg talk about the fact that expects LNG exports to come back very quickly to post-COVID levels. Can you, and also Secretary Winberg talked about the fact that American producers can do, turnkey operations. They have the capacity to play a very broad role in this area. Can you tell us a little bit, and from your perspective, where Turkey sees the role of investment opportunities and collaborations from US LNG exporters, the types of skills or investment that they would bring?
Look, I think we need to, maybe particularly we are discussing LNG, but when it comes to US-Turkey relationship in the field of energy, I believe we shouldn't narrow the discussions and the topics or items to only LNG trade. As Secretary Winberg said, and in our earlier conversation, said also many things about the other fields of other areas that in the field of energy, like new technologies, renewables, digital technologies, hydrogen. We discussed with him, and many other things. We shouldn't avoid and turn a blind eye to those areas. So there are so many things can be done. When it comes to particularly LNG or gas trade in general, I also agree with him that we need to consider the whole around LNG, FSRUs, onshore regasification terminals, transportation, and also we should consider the value chain from upstream to end consumption. And particularly in Turkey, I gave you an example from power generation and industrial consumption. So I think we need to consider the whole value chain to move forward, expand this relationship between two countries. But what we need to do is we need to build a cooperation, and for doing this, to be able to make this, we need to give business community a sound message, more long-term perspective and long-term commitment. We need to create a reliable supply of energy to Turkish consumers, Turkish market, as well as we need to give demand security for US LNG exporters. In terms of timeline, I think we are in a very important stage. It's an important milestone came, I can say, next year, 16 billion cubic meter of gas contracts are going to be expired. And 2025, 2026, there will be additional 26 billion cubic meter of gas contracts expiration. So, which gives us a real sizable market and an opportunity to enter. But last point, I used this acronym before, reliability, flexibility, and competitiveness. This RFC is quite important. and especially for the government sides, we should provide reliability, give this aspect to business community, then we can have a sound long-term energy cooperation.
Oh, thank you, because I'm so glad you raised that. The energy cooperation is not just limited to LNG, and particularly for the companies, both Turkish and American, that have joined us today, and we have about 300 participants. The fact that there's renewables, hydrogen, electricity production, and you talked about the entire value chain, is certainly of tremendous interest to them. So with that, I've been told we have a couple of extra minutes, about 4 extra minutes. So in your closing statements, and I'd like to start with Secretary Winberg, to react to anything the Deputy Minister has said, and or add what your thoughts may be as we close this session, looking into the future. And then as a Minister, I'll come back to you after that. But Secretary Winberg?
Thank you, Khush. Mr. Bayraktar is absolutely correct, and he and I have talked about these opportunities beyond LNG imports. There are certainly opportunities for us to work together on hydrogen production, and I think we're seeing a resurgent or a increased interest in hydrogen, certainly in Europe, here in the U.S., but for that matter around the world. So there are opportunities for us to cooperate there, whether that is renewable-based hydrogen or natural gas-based hydrogen or even coal-based hydrogen. Carbon capture, utilization, sequestration is another area that we've talked about where we can collaborate. But getting to the point of this this fireside chat here, I take very clearly the minister's need for reliable, flexible, and competitive LNG, and I think that the U.S. brings all three of those requirements to the table. There, of course, right now is a very robust spot market. In fact, about 34% of global LNG trade was spot market last year. Now, long-term commitments are certainly necessary for exporters to reach final investment decisions so that they can build the export terminals. But I think that the spot market is an opportunity market right now for LNG, and of course is reliable. It is very competitive, and it is quite flexible. But likewise, I would say that because of the flexibility that U.S. LNG suppliers have, even under a long-term contract, there are numerous ways to construct a contract for long-term purchase of LNG that will meet Turkey's requirements into the short term and the long-term future. And I just want to end by saying that we look forward to working with Turkey. And on a personal note, I look forward to hopefully one day meeting you, Minister, and we can sit down and get down to business. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate.
Minister Bayraktar, would you like to give us
sure,
some
Sure. I think I would like to make a little bit statement about the potential areas that we can cooperate to summarize and some other areas. Introducing a new market is in our agenda, so we are planning to include and add new elements into the energy market, such as digitalization, as I mentioned earlier. And I believe that especially after COVID-19, the deployment of the digital technologies in energy will be faster. demand side management, electric vehicles charging units and network, distributed generation, renewables, energy efficiency, hydrogen, these new technologies that Turkey and US business community should focus on in near future. Second point that I would like to make here, we will see a consolidation in Turkish energy market. The asset prices are very attractive, so business community to look at this new M&A era. And third, we already discussed about the potential in the gas field, the upcoming years, the development on the gas contracts and new opportunities. And another area would be Turkey did the largest gas discovery, offshore discovery this year in Black Sea region. So we are already working with some American companies there, and I believe we can extend this into different projects. And lastly, cooperation. I need to repeat this. I need to tell them, believe in this. We need to cooperate on the third countries. I believe there are so many things can be done, and there are so many competent companies in Turkey and in US to deliver good products and services in the third countries as well. So many things can be done. Trade volume between we as governments need to support business communities and commit to work together to increase the trade volume between two countries. Having said that, thanks for once again for the invitation, Secretary Winberg. Always nice to talk to you, and hope one day after COVID-19 we will see each other in person. Once again, thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Deputy Minister Bayraktar, Secretary Winberg. I think in this session, the takeaways to our companies are there's a very broad range that our two speakers have identified in terms of cooperation, from digital to carbon capture, electricity, not just LNG. It's very broad. The industry is going through a lot of change. The Deputy Minister just referred to potential consolidation. And then I think the second takeaway for companies is that the two governments are providing the enabling framework through their close cooperation, to which we thank you both, for the business communities to take a leverage upon. And then the last and but not least is what both speakers have stressed: reliability, flexibility, and competitiveness. And I think that both the Turkish and American private sectors in that broad spectrum in the energy sector will be able to certainly meet that. And then last but not least, leverage upon their joint capabilities for third country cooperation. So with that, thank you once more. We truly appreciate your spending some time with us today. I want to remind participants that the US-Turkey LNG Forum will be held virtually in late October, so stay tuned. We will share additional details.